What if the person you trusted most in the world turned out to be the one who betrayed you in the most unimaginable way? Picture this. Kenzo Jalil Whitmore, a man who believed his wife, Zafira, died in a tragic accident 7 years ago. A man who buried his grief, raised his daughter alone, and lived a life marked by the pain of that loss. But one fateful day, everything he thought he knew came crashing down. On a vacation in the Bahamas, Kenzo's reality shattered. He saw her, his wife, alive, and standing beside none other than his best friend, a man who had been by his side through it all. But how could this be? What secrets had they been hiding? And why was the truth kept from him for so long? Betrayal, lies, and a love story turned into a nightmare. Stay with us as we unravel the shocking truth behind one of the most devastating deceptions you'll ever hear. Get ready for the twist, the heartbreak, and the shocking consequences in this unforgettable true crime tale. Welcome to True Crimes Unlimited, where the darkest secrets meet the brightest minds. I'm your host, and I'll be guiding you through the most shocking, the most disturbing, and most fascinating true crime stories from around the world. From the twisted minds of serial killers to the intricate webs of deceit, we'll dive into the depths of human nature and explore the crimes that will leave you speechless. And as we unravel the mysteries, you'll be drawn into a world of intrigue, suspense, and fascination. So, if you're ready to delve into the unknown, to confront the darkness, and uncover the truth, then join me on this journey into the world of true crime. Subscribe now, and let's uncover the secrets together. Kenzo Jalil Whitmore, born on May 17, 1988, in New Orleans, Louisiana, was a man who always lived with purpose. Raised by a single mother, Lorraine Whitmore, in the lower Ninth Ward, Kenzo learned early that life wasn't kind. If he wanted something better, he had to work for it. In a neighborhood where survival was a skill, Kenzo found solace in academics. He buried himself in his studies, particularly in mathematics, where logic gave him order in a chaotic world. His relentless focus paid off. He earned a full scholarship to Louisiana State University, a path that would lead him away from the streets and into the world of civil engineering. At LSU, Kenzo's world expanded beyond constraints of his neighborhood, but there was one person who would change his life in a way he never saw coming. It was at LSU where he met Zafira Mahoney, born on April 12, 1990, in Houston, Texas. Zafira was everything Kenzo wasn't: bold, confident, and full of life. Where Kenzo was reserved, Zafira commanded attention the moment she walked into a room. She had an effortless charm, a fire that ignited everyone around her. Their worlds couldn't have been more different. Kenzo, the quiet, methodical dreamer. Zafira, the free-spirited risk-taker. But maybe that was the magic. She grounded him, and he showed her how to chase her dreams with focus. By 2012, Kenzo and Zafira were married in a small but intimate ceremony in Baton Rouge. No fairy tale wedding, just the people who mattered most. It wasn't grand, but their love was steady, like a quiet flame burning through the trials of life. Together, they had a daughter, Amina Whitmore, in 2014. The picture-perfect family. To the world, they were everything they'd ever hoped for. But behind the smiles, behind the closed doors of their seemingly perfect home, cracks were beginning to form. What seemed like a dream was slowly unraveling, and neither Kenzo nor Zafira could stop it. As the years passed, Zafira's career soared. She became a successful news producer, climbing the ladder in a cutthroat industry. But with each step forward, she seemed to drift further away from Kenzo. Her ambition grew, and her time at home became sparse. She became consumed by her work, chasing the next big story, the next career milestone, while Kenzo's demanding job as a civil engineer in New Orleans kept him at the office late into the night. Kenzo tried to be there for Amina. He buried himself in his career, keeping the family afloat, while Zafira's absence began to eat away at their marriage. Arguments grew more frequent. Moments of connection grew fewer. But it wasn't just their marriage that was changing. It was the people around them. Then, there was Ale Darnell Kane. Ale had been Kenzo's best friend since childhood. They were brothers, in every way but blood, charismatic, smooth-talking, and the center of attention wherever he went. Ale had the world at his fingertips. Where Kenzo was disciplined, Ale was reckless. He lived in the moment, always chasing the next thrill. Ale had a gift for persuasion. He could talk his way into or out of anything, and people adored him for it. But Kenzo trusted him. He had always trusted Ale, the man who had been by his side through thick and thin. They were inseparable, the kind of bond that seemed unbreakable. Ale was there for every milestone, Amina's birthdays, holidays. He was Uncle Ale, the one who brought the best gifts, the one who knew how to make everyone laugh. And Kenzo never thought anything of it. He thought nothing could come between them. As Zafira's career took off, Ale was there, supporting her, just as he had always supported Kenzo. The lines between friendship and something more began to blur. What Kenzo didn't know was that Ale and Zafira's bond was evolving into something far more dangerous. Something that would shatter everything he thought he knew about the people he loved most. But, as we would soon learn, not everything is as it seems. Behind the smiles, behind the friendship, a dark plan was taking shape. One that would change Kenzo's life forever. Kenzo's marriage was falling apart, and the person he trusted most, his best friend, was a catalyst for a betrayal that would leave him questioning everything. In the shadows, something sinister was brewing, something that would destroy his entire world, piece by piece. But the question remained, how long could this deception last before everything came crashing down? March 9th, 2016, a night that would change everything for Kenzo Whitmore. He had just returned home after a long, exhausting day of work, feeling the weight of deadlines and meetings pressing on him. He had managed to get through the day, but all he wanted was a quiet evening with his wife, Zafira, and their daughter, Amina. But just as Kenzo sat down to relax, his phone rang. 11:42 p.m., a call he would never forget. The voice on the other end was calm, too calm, as it delivered the news that would shatter his world. The officer on the line informed Kenzo that there had been a fatal car accident on Interstate 10 near Baton Rouge. Zafira's car had caught fire upon impact, and there were no survivors. The voice was detached, professional, as though it was just another routine call. But for Kenzo, it was the beginning of his worst nightmare. Kenzo's heart raced, his mind refusing to register the words. He tried to speak, but no sound escaped his lips. His world, the future he had built with Zafira, crumbled in an instant. Without warning, everything he had known was gone. He didn't believe it. It couldn't be true. He rushed to the Baton Rouge Police Department, his mind spinning with disbelief. His hands trembled as the officer led him to a table, where two small, seemingly insignificant items lay. Zafira's wedding ring and a gold necklace she had worn since their first anniversary. The officer explained that the body had been burned beyond recognition. No DNA could be recovered, no dental records could be matched. Just two items that Kenzo knew all too well. The officer's words were clinical, emotionless, as if they were merely going through the motions. But for Kenzo, they were a death sentence to everything he had known. He crumbled, unable to accept what was happening. Kenzo refused to believe it. What if they were wrong? What if it wasn't Zafira? He begged the officer for more answers, for anything that could prove that his wife was still alive. But there was nothing. The police had no evidence to say it wasn't her. No answers. No closure. Just a woman he loved, gone without a trace. In the days that followed, Kenzo was consumed by grief. His world became a blur of funeral arrangements, endless paperwork, and a deafening silence that filled his home. Zafira was gone, and with her, a part of Kenzo's soul. But in this dark period of loss, one person stayed close by his side, Ale Darnell Kane. Ale, Kenzo's best friend, was there for him during the toughest days. He helped with everything. Legal matters, comforting Kenzo, and even taking care of Amina when Kenzo couldn't find the strength to. Ale seemed like the perfect friend, the one person who had Kenzo's back. But slowly, Kenzo began to notice something unsettling. Ale, once so present, began to distance himself. His calls became fewer, his messages less frequent. And when Ale announced he was taking a job overseas, Kenzo could barely react. At first, he dismissed it. Grief had clouded his mind. But the more he thought about it, the more he began to feel a strange discomfort. Was Ao really moving on with his life, or was there something more sinister at play? Was Ao, the man who had been like a brother, hiding something from Kenzo? Something that connected him to Zafira's death? And if so, how far did this betrayal go? The more Kenzo thought about it, the more the pieces didn't fit. Why had Ao become so distant? Why had he left so abruptly? Was it simply the natural course of life? Or was it a way to hide the truth? And if Ao had been involved in some way, what had he been hiding? Now, we ask you, what do you think? Could Ao's sudden departure be a sign of something darker? Was it just a coincidence? Or is there more to Zafira's death than we were led to believe? Let us know your theories in the comments below. Who do you trust in a world full of lies? It had been 3 years since Zafira's death, and Kenzo was still struggling to move on. As a widower and single father, he focused on raising his daughter, Amina, but the haunting feeling that something was wrong never left him. The grief was constant, yes, but so was the nagging suspicion that the story he'd been told wasn't the whole truth. By 2019, for years after that fateful night, Kenzo's doubts had taken root. He found himself questioning everything. The police report, the accident scene, even the memories he held of Zafira. What if she wasn't dead? What if she had somehow faked her own death? The possibility seemed absurd, yet something about it felt eerily plausible. Kenzo began to search for answers. He reached out to old contacts, retracing every step of that night. He meticulously examined the details of the crash. The more he dug, the more unsettling questions surfaced. The first red flag was the timeline. Why had Ao disappeared so quickly after the accident? And why had Zafira's family, her parents, her siblings, never once questioned the sudden and violent nature of her death? Surely, they should have been asking more questions. It didn't sit right with Kenzo, and it haunted him daily. Kenzo's search for answers led him to the most chilling discovery yet. There was no official record of a body being found at the crash site. The police had said the car had caught fire upon impact, but there was no mention of any body recovered, only charred remains. The fire was so intense that no DNA could be extracted, but that didn't make sense to Kenzo. How could the police be so sure it was Zafira? How could they identify her with no evidence to back it up? The more Kenzo thought about it, the more pieces began to fall into place. This wasn't just an accident. This was something much darker. But Kenzo didn't stop there. He dug deeper, uncovering even more troubling facts. The police had insisted it was Zafira's body, but they had no actual confirmation, no dental records, no DNA, no physical identification, just a couple of personal items, her wedding ring and a necklace she wore every day. Kenzo's mind raced. What if they weren't just mistaken? What if it wasn't her? What if Zafira had staged her death? The thought seemed impossible, yet it made more sense with every new detail Kenzo uncovered. With each passing day, Kenzo found more and more pieces to the puzzle. The inconsistencies piled up. Why had Ao vanished so quickly, only to disappear completely? Why had Zafira's family never demanded answers or pressed the police for a clearer investigation? The more Kenzo dug, the more it seemed like this was all part of a much bigger plan, a carefully orchestrated scheme that only Ao and Zafira could have pulled off. Could it be true? Could Zafira really still be alive? And if so, how could Ao, Kenzo's best friend, be involved in such a monstrous betrayal? It all seemed too calculated, too carefully planned to be anything but deliberate. But why? What was their motive? Was it money? Was it escape? Or was there something deeper at play here? Kenzo's gut told him there was something more, something far more sinister. He knew he couldn't stop now. He couldn't let this go. He needed the truth, no matter how painful it might be. But how could he confront the people he trusted most? What would he do when he found out what they had really been hiding all these years? But how could this be? What lengths would Ao and Zafira go to in order to pull off such a brutal deception? What would be their motive for betraying Kenzo in such a cruel way? Could Kenzo really uncover the truth behind Zafira's death? Or was he chasing a phantom, a truth that may never be fully revealed? What do you think, viewers? Do you believe this is the twist Kenzo has been searching for? Could Zafira still be alive? And is Ao hiding something far more sinister? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of the evidence Kenzo has uncovered so far? 7 years had passed since Zafira's supposed death. Kenzo, now a father raising his daughter Mina on his own, had carried the weight of grief, buried under a constant cloud of unanswered questions. But in the summer of 2023, Kenzo made a decision, a brief escape, a trip to the Bahamas with Mina, hoping for a change of scenery to lift their spirits. What he didn't know was that this vacation would shatter his world forever. It was a quiet evening at a beachside resort, the sun setting over the horizon in brilliant shades of orange and purple. The gentle waves lapped at the shore, and the soft hum of island music filled the air. It was the kind of peaceful moment Kenzo had longed for, but it was about to be interrupted in the most horrifying way possible. Kenzo was sitting at a cafe, watching Amina finish her smoothie, when his eyes caught something, a figure walking along the shore. At first, it seemed unremarkable, a man strolling by. But then his heart skipped a beat. There, standing by the water's edge, was Ao. Kenzo's pulse quickened as he focused on his best friend, Ao. There was no mistaking him. The man had barely changed. The same tall, confident stride. The same easy smile that made everyone around him feel at ease. But something felt off. Why was Ao here? Why was he on this island, in a place so far from home? But as Kenzo's gaze followed Ao, something else caught his eye. A woman walking beside him. A familiar face, one he had never expected to see again. It was Zafira, alive, walking with Ao, hand in hand, laughing as if nothing had ever happened. As if 7 years had not passed, as if the tragedy that consumed his life was nothing more than a distant memory. Kenzo's heart stopped. The woman he had buried in his heart, the woman whose funeral he had attended, the woman whose death had torn his world apart, was standing right in front of him, alive, and not just alive, thriving, walking beside the one person Kenzo had trusted more than anyone, Ao. The weight of the truth hit Kenzo, like a freight train. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a case of mistaken identity. This had all been part of a carefully orchestrated plan. A plot so deep, so calculated, that it had been hidden from him for 7 long years. A plan in which Ao and Zafira had been living their lives as if nothing had ever happened. And Kenzo had been living in the dark the entire time. Kenzo stood frozen, unable to move, his body numb with disbelief. The life he had built, the years of mourning, the love he thought he had lost. It all felt like a cruel joke. And there they were, the two people who had shattered everything, standing before him with no remorse, as if their betrayal had been nothing more than a footnote in their lives. Kenzo couldn't breathe. How could they do this to him? How could they have lived with such a lie? Watched him suffer, watched his daughter grow up without her mother. And for what? What had they gained from this? What did they think they would accomplish? As Kenzo's world tilted and spun out of control, one thought pierced through his mind. He had been living a lie, a deep, painful lie. And now, he had to confront the truth, no matter how ugly, no matter how much it hurt. There was no going back now. Everything had changed. Kenzo didn't wait. He couldn't. The betrayal had been too great, too shocking to leave it unaddressed. With trembling hands, he approached Zafira and Ao. The air was thick with tension. Every word that was about to be spoken would change everything. And then it happened. The truth came spilling out, the words Kenzo had feared to hear for so long. Zafira had faked her death to escape the life she no longer wanted. The marriage, the responsibilities, the life she had built with Kenzo. It had all become too much for her. She had been having an affair with Ao long before the accident, and together they had crafted the perfect deception. They staged the crash, destroyed all evidence, and left Kenzo to live with a grief that wasn't his to bear. Kenzo's mind reeled. He had spent years grieving a woman who was alive, living a life that had belonged to someone else, with someone else. The life he thought he knew, the life he had spent so much time building, was a lie, a carefully constructed facade, designed to break him from the inside out. And now, there was nothing left, nothing but a man who had lost everything. His wife, his best friend, and the years he had wasted in mourning. All gone, all stolen. The pain was unimaginable. The heartbreak, shattering. The betrayal. So deep it left scars that would never heal. Kenzo had trusted them both. He had loved them both. And now, the trust he had placed in them was destroyed beyond repair. Kenzo's life would never be the same. He could never go back to the man he once was, the man who believed in the love he shared with Zafira, the man who thought his family was whole. That life was gone, taken from him by the people he had trusted the most. And then there was Amina, his daughter, the young girl who had grown up without her mother, never fully understanding why Zafira was gone. Amina, who had spent years asking why mommy never came home. And now, she would have to face the truth, truths about her mother that would haunt her forever. How could Kenzo explain this to her? How could he tell his daughter that her mother, the woman she had loved and remembered, was never really gone? That the mother she had mourned for years had been alive all along? Could he protect her from the weight of that truth? There was no going back from this. No way to undo the hurt. No way to heal the wounds that had been inflicted on them all. Kenzo was left with only the fragments of a life he could never reclaim. And Amina, she was left with a truth that would define her childhood, one that she would carry with her into the future. What had started as a story of love and betrayal had now become a story of loss, of family, trust, and innocence lost forever. The consequences of one lie, one betrayal, would echo through the lives of everyone involved. And the scars of this deception would never fade. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. So, what do you think about this case? Could you have ever imagined the truth behind Zafira's disappearance? Did you see it coming, or were you as shocked as Kenzo when the truth was finally revealed? Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments below. This case may be closed, but there are plenty more chilling stories waiting to be told. Our next true crime story is sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. Don't miss it. If you want to stay up to date with our latest true crime tales, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what we have in store next. And as always, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and share it with those who love a good mystery.